What has created this new growing organization is frustration with the way that America has used the dollar for its own purposes. And what BRICS is really all about is the development of a multipolar world instead of the world being dominated essentially by one country. And it's that growing frustration that is leading to so many other countries wanting to join BRICS Plus.
In this groundbreaking video, Simon Hunt, the founder of Simon Hunt Strategic Services, unveils the future of international finance and trade. He discusses the proposal of a new currency by the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and its potential to challenge the dominance of the US dollar. Hunt sheds light on the motivations behind this move and how the currency may be backed by commodities like gold, oil, and rare earths. Join us as we explore the rise of BRICS and the potential implications for the global economy.
You can receive renminbi and you can convert the renminbi into gold through the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which since its inception, it's a very serious attack on the dollar world that has existed since World War II. Organization is frustration with the way that America has used the dollar for its own purposes. And what BRICS is really all about is the development of a multipolar world instead of the world being dominated essentially by one country. And it's that growing frustration that is leading to so many other countries wanting to join BRICS Plus. How the new currency will evolve is obviously a pretty closely guarded secret between the Sherpas of the BRICS Plus, who are organizing the meeting in the end of 22nd to 24th of August. I think that there will be a lot of discussion. I think a roadmap has been planned. How much will be announced at the BRICS meeting is questionable. It clearly requires an awful lot of work to see that whatever is the new currency, how it will work. So we will probably see hints of what they are going to do. Now, the original idea was to link the currency to a basket of commodities that BRICS produces. I think that has evolved into whatever is the currency will be convertible into gold. Now, it can either be using the renminbi to be convertible, which actually it is now. You can receive renminbi and you can convert the renminbi into gold through the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which since its inception has actually had a total of something like 25,000 tons moved through the exchange. An interesting aspect of this is how Russia and China treat their growing trade between the two countries. For instance, Russia is currently having a trade surplus of $23 billion odd. Those dollars are held in a gold convertible account in China's central bank, the PBOC. I suspect, without knowing, that will be the template between China and the Gulf countries. What is also happening, as you mentioned, is that BRICS is using local currencies to settle trade balances. And that's being done through the BRICS bank, which is called the New Trade Bank. And they are building a reserve of local currencies, BRICS currencies. For instance, quite recently, they issued in the China bond market $1.2 trillion worth of panda bonds. So you can see that there's a very strong chosen path by BRICS to develop a new mechanism which will be against G7 countries. What people don't appreciate is the depth that BRICS has created in its secretariat. They have special secretariats for every single part of the world, whether it be geopolitics, whether trade, finance, education, and even sports. Each one has its separate secretariat, which is actually housed in the BRICS Tower in Pudong in Shanghai. So this is really the early developments of a new bloc of countries that really is a danger to the G7. What people don't appreciate, or some don't, is the size of the gold reserves which China has and Russia has. China has in total 50,000 tons plus, and Russia probably north of 12,000 tons. So their central banks are only holding a small part of the total. As I mentioned earlier, since the inception of the Shanghai Gold Exchange, something like 25,000 tons has passed through the exchange into Chinese households and institutions. The remaining 25-odd thousand tons, most of that is held by different ministries, including the PLA.
What would that mean for the ability of these countries to issue currencies? I mean, that would seriously curtail that ability.
No. Well, that's a very good question, and it's a complicated answer. The first thing to note is that the Russian economist who is heading up the team to develop this new currency, in an interview he gave the end of last year to a Moscow-based newspaper, laid out a very important point. Whether it's pursued or not, I don't know, but he made the point that any existing member or new member who defaults on loans to Western banks and financial institutions will not be debarred from joining BRICS. So that is a very, very important point if they pursue it. The BRICS Bank will eventually grow into being the BRICS World Bank. So a country like Zambia needs loans to continue to develop its mining industry. That's where they will go, not to a World Bank or Western banks. You have to remember that it requires the unanimous approval of all BRICS members to accept a new member. So I suspect that the first round of new members will be completed within a couple of years. Don't forget that in December last year, President Xi gave a very important presentation to Gulf leaders. So I'm paraphrasing what he said. You will have surpluses with us. We will have deficits with you. We will have surpluses with you, and you will have deficits. How we resolve those differences will be through an interstate means. The message is laid out very clearly. He also said, we will be invoicing everything in RMB. So that also implies either you will hold your RMBs in our bond market, or you will have the means to convert that into gold. And don't forget that both Saudi Arabia and the UAE have sold parcels of oil and UAE parcels of gas to China, received RMB, and then used, so one is told, used the Shanghai Gold Exchange to convert the RMB into gold. So one suspects these were just test parcels.
And do you see all of these countries adopting this currency as their domestic currency, or just using it to facilitate global trade?
Good question. Again, I suspect it's a step-by-step approach. That the first step is to use it to financing trade between each other. What it also means is that so much of the energy market is going to no longer be in dollars, but in other currencies. Why should central banks hold dollars? So any country that's part of BRICS, they don't need to hold dollars. Other central banks will look around and say, how much of our reserves should we hold in dollars? It won't be the same percentage. Then we have to look at, and what's a very important point, is how is America going to react to all of this? And that actually, you can link that into what's going on in Ukraine.